And the problem becomes even bigger when the same layoffs are happening across the entire tech industry. Visa is not operating in isolation. Across technology and financial services, companies have been reconstructing teams, reducing cost, reconsidering how many employees they need. Well, the names are familiar, by the way: Meta, Amazon, Oracle, LinkedIn, Cisco, MasterCard, Block, and many others. Here, the important point is not simply the number of jobs that are disappearing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pattern. Companies are becoming more cautious about large organizational structure. They want smaller teams, they want higher productivity, they want automation, and they want every single dollar of corporate spending to produce measurable value. This changes the job market entirely, because when one major company cuts thousands of roles, well, those workers do not disappear. They enter the same job market as everybody else. So suddenly, one senior engineer is competing against another senior engineer. One product manager is competing against thousands of product managers further. And guess what? The companies that are still hiring, they can become extremely selective. In the meantime, for the H-1B professional, the whole situation, it can be even more difficult, because not every employer is willing or able to sponsor immigration. So imagine being an experienced engineer with an impressive resume. You find 10 suitable jobs for you. Then you discover only 4 are open to sponsorship. Then perhaps 2 are eventually willing to move forward. And now the clock is running. This is why the technology slowdown can hit professionals differently. The same economic shock can produce a very different personal consequences for everyone. And yes, while this is happening in America, another trend is becoming impossible to ignore. Now, for an American worker, a layoff is devastating. But there is at least one thing that they usually still have: time. For an H-1B worker, time can become the most expensive thing in the room. Under the current rule described in our report, eligible H-1B workers can generally have a grace period of up to 60 days after employment ends, or until their I-94 validity expires, whichever comes first. 60 days. That sounds like 2 months, but think about what has to happen inside those 2 months. You have to find a job. The employer has to be willing to sponsor you. The company has to evaluate your profile. The legal team has to prepare the immigration paperwork. The required filing have to be made correctly. And you may have a family depending on your status: a spouse, children, a mortgage, a house, school fee, health insurance, and perhaps years of life invested in America. Suddenly, your career becomes a countdown, and this is where the immigration system and the tech job markets collide. Because the H-1B system was designed around employment. But employment is precisely what can disappear overnight. There is another complication here. Many professionals have spent years waiting for permanent residency. Their employer may have started the green card process. Well, they may have invested years into perm and I-140 procedures. Then one layoff happens, and suddenly the entire strategy, it has to be reassessed. Well, that is why an H-1B layoff, that is not just a workplace story. It is a family story. And sometimes it becomes a decision about whether an entire family stays in America or starts over somewhere else.